I want people to be better than me. Because in the end, if that happens, it means I did a really good job. And that's why, like, even this position that I'm in right now, like, my pride doesn't come from winning awards year after year. My pride doesn't come from like winning these trips and all stuff like that. My pride comes from promoting 6 people to manage the positions, and now they're in a better position to make their life better.
As humans, we experience a wide range of crazy emotions, and these emotions can come up during challenging times that seem to hit us out of nowhere. That's the purpose of this podcast, to teach you how to move through these difficult situations and harness these emotions that we feel to be able to create the life that you want. My name's Nathaniel Burke, and I'm the host of the Emotional Fitness Podcast. I hope you enjoy. Dylan, thank you so much for being on the episode today. I'm super excited about this one. Dylan Campanaro has been in the fitness industry for a very long time. I've known him back, probably at least a decade ago. And some of the stuff you're doing now is so incredible. So really excited to have you on the show because you've been a leader in that industry for quite a while. And not just a leader as in new fads and coming up with new training, but literally a leader of people, which I absolutely love and I'm passionate about. So maybe you want to just tell me a little bit about yourself, what you're doing right now, and we'll really go into this and see what's going on.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Thanks for having me first and foremost. So for me, the fitness industry, man, I've been in it for over a decade now. It's been 13 years. Started in Kelowna with yourself, a Good Life Fitness, just as a personal trainer, but always had that kind of mindset and that passion to just lead people. And that stemmed from being in sports at such a young age. I've transitioned to every single role within the fitness industry, personal trainer into fitness manager into general manager. And now I'm running a club in Vancouver, which is the busiest club in the company, 9,400 members. Like, it's a very, very busy club and such a big team. I've managed over hundreds and hundreds of people, and it's always been just the biggest passion of mine to help elevate people to be the best versions of themselves possible. So that's what provides me motivation, and that's why I love this role so much.
Oh, that's amazing. And, you get to see such a range of people come through, which I absolutely love. And for me, I always say, like, people are my passion. And, I know we've talked a few times, and in the past, you've always just, some of the stuff you've said has always just carried with me. And so that's why I was super excited to get you on the podcast, because I think it was like a 5-minute discussion. I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting here taking notes and writing this down. I'm like, dude, this guy's got it figured out. So, just to backtrack a little bit, at one point, I think last we spoke, you had a team of 28, I believe you're managing at the time.
Yeah.
That's crazy, because if anybody's been in management before, it's one thing to manage people when you are just do it as I say, and this is, we're working in a factory type or whatever, but to have a team where everybody's so different, all their businesses are a little bit, it's all fitness, but they'll have their different needs, their wants, their goals, and to manage it. And more importantly, to start from zero.
Yeah.
Because when we spoke, you were taking over a gym where there was the worst.
Yeah.
And you turned it into this absolute monster with a huge team. So, I really want to explore that, because there's just so much there, and it takes a special person to do that, because especially nowadays with, all the transitions, with everything going on online, all that kind of stuff around the Kelowna fitness industry is taking a beating, but to still have that success. So for you, when we talk about leadership, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to people. So we're not leading systems. We're not leading, like, that stuff's incorporated, but it is all about people. So when I look at leadership, it's like, anyone that works for me, I want them to become better individuals because they have worked for me. And it doesn't necessarily mean better in the workplace. I want them to be better overall human beings. So if I can help people just become the best versions of themselves and teach them lessons that are going to allow them to excel in life as a whole, then it allows them to bring their best to the workplace every single day, because those two go hand in hand. Right. Yeah. So when I look at leadership, man, it's not just numbers. It's not just, how can I get the most profit for this company? It's like, that stuff is important in business. But for me, what's important in business is people. So it's like, if I can once again have people come to me, work for me for whatever, 2 to 3 years, and then that person leaves, and then they say, hey, I don't mind that I've left, because from working for you, I've become a better version of myself. And that's what I want. And everything you're referencing in regards to, years ago when I built that team from 6 trainers to 32 trainers was actually the most I had at a time, managing 32 people. I'm still getting messages from these people like a week ago. Hey, she's in Korea. I just had a kid. She's sending me a picture of her baby. I haven't talked to her for a year. Right. But it's still like
Wow.
these impact and these blueprints that I get pride and value on and bringing out of these individuals. And then it provides this huge amount of trust. And then we're all working together to provide something collective towards the overall result. Like that's what teamwork is. And for me, leadership is evoking that. It's bringing people together, bringing a community together, and people always want a sense of belonging. So once you have a
Yeah.
full team with that sense of belonging, everyone's there for the same reason, and it becomes like I use this term, like for me, family's everything, and I use my team
Yeah.
as family. I do believe in leadership. It gets overplayed because
Mhm.
there isn't a lot of people that genuinely give a crap about their people.
Yeah.
But if you have that, that's what separates you from mediocrity to kind of greatness. And it's like, because in
Yeah.
the end, it's all people. So yeah, that's my biggest passion, man. I just want to evoke the best out of people, and when you do that, you see some really amazing things happen, and so do they, and they don't even think it can happen. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, man, I should be sitting here taking notes. I'm just like, yeah, this is it right here. And
yeah,
I think you didn't say it, but the proof is in the pudding. When you have somebody that you managed years ago message you out of the blue and just say, hey, like, guess what I'm doing? Here's
yeah,
my life right now, just because they don't have to. I think that really goes far. And what an amazing feeling that that person can come to you, and that person can come to you regardless of where they are, if you're their leader or not.
yeah,
You made that impact in them.
yeah,
And I think you really I love what you said before, is like understanding that true leadership isn't just you're all here underneath me. It's like, no, man, I'm raising you up to
yeah,
be these amazing people. And if you go off and you do your own thing, that's a win for you. And the fact that you recognize that means is honestly why you're still doing this and doing
yeah,
so well. Because
yeah,
I've seen this lots where sometime in a few different scenarios on the downside, whereas people will get in that position, but they don't want, everybody, I'm up here and everybody's down here.
yeah,
And if they start rising up, well, that's not good. They're making more money than me, or they're doing better than I did. But recognizing like that's a sign of a true leader, is bringing up more leaders,
yeah, yeah. And
right?
that's like, to elaborate on that, man. It's like I want that. I want
Yeah.
people to be better than me. Because in the
Yeah.
end, if that happens, it means I did a really good job.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, even this position that I'm in right now, like, my pride doesn't come from winning awards year after year. My pride doesn't come from like winning these trips and all stuff like that. My pride comes from promoting 6 people to
Yeah.
management positions, and now they're in a better
Mm.
position to make their life better. That's where
Yeah.
I'm happy about. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And it all comes down to that. Because as I like, if I can replicate or get people better than me and we're all working under the same club, like that's gold. That works out for everyone. It's not
Yeah.
even about the money. It's about the pride of just developing people to be better. Right. And in the
Absolutely.
end, you know this as well, is like we're the hardest on ourselves. We're the
Yeah.
hardest on ourselves. We're our own biggest critic, right?
Hmm.
So if you don't have somebody who's trying to take that out of you and bring out the best in you, sometimes you don't even reach that potential that you even thought you were going to reach.
Yeah.
And once that happens and you see what you can do, like all these doors start to open. And it's like we need more of that in this world. There's a lot of
Yeah.
just negativity, all
Yeah.
downside. Like we need more positivity. We need more support, need more uplifting. And that's kind of, as things transition and change, that's what the most important thing to me is once again, going back to the people standpoint. It's like, can I make you better? And that's like literally my only goal out of the situation of you working for me.
I love that. And you made something I want to open up a little bit here, is that you talked about looking at the positive versus negative, because I find that is a very common tool with leadership and people in roles of power.
Yeah.
And you have this like, oh, well, you did this wrong. And that's their coaching style, or they're not even coaching style, but that's how they become a boss, essentially, is you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, versus pointing out, a lot of good football coaches. I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a football coach down in California, won a bunch as a high school coach. And all he did was showed all the players what they did well
Yeah.
during game film.
Yeah.
And I went like, wow, because we always talk about, I always do both, but he's like, he only showed them that. And because that's what they kept doing. So my question to you is, how do you incorporate that into leading a team?
Yeah. So I mean, like that's awesome because I agree with that. So I'm just gonna like address a point first that you brought up.
Sure.
So I think there's a big difference between boss and leader. And I think we've transitioned a lot more, which I like from the term boss to leader. Because for me, a boss is do. A leader is like, hey, let me show you how to be better. What are your ideas? Let's get the best out of that and bring out the best in you from that standpoint. So I hate the term boss, even when my team says boss just by default. Like, I always want to correct it because I just don't like that term. I don't want to tell you what to do. I want to work together to get the result that you want for yourself that's going to get you towards your goals, right? And I think that's how we bring out the best in people. I love the positive reinforcement aspect of what that coach did, because that's how it should be. We focus so much on the negativity, so now my brain is programmed to focus on, oh, I'm doing everything wrong, and now we're, as I said, we're so hard on ourselves, and then it becomes us limiting what we can do, because mindset is everything. So the way that I look at leadership and management when I'm looking at my team, there's always going to be areas of opportunity, and we still want to touch on those areas of opportunity. But every single time that I'm meeting with somebody, if all that I'm focusing on is, hey, this area of opportunity needs to be better, this needs to be better, this needs to be better, there's no recognition on what's going well. And everyone has their strengths, and there's always so much that's going well. And it's funny, like, as a parent, because we're both parents, I was reading this like one quote that kind of talked about, hey, if your son's like really bad at math but really good at science, hire a tutor for science, because they're really good at it. Let's highlight what these people are good at and they get exceptional at, instead of focusing on what they're terrible at, because they're honestly never going to like that. So I can get myself to mediocre at that, but that's never going to be what I'm going to pursue moving forward. Do we need to get better at certain things? Of course. But if I can make you a 10 out of 10 at this aspect, that's also going to help everything and make you better in that aspect of the job or that aspect of the career, then that translates and turns into other great things, because momentum is a crazy thing. Right. But as I said, if we're always focused on negative, what does that do to your self-belief? What does that do to your mindset? Now I'm like, oh, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. And then even the stuff you are good at becomes less good, and the stuff you are bad at becomes even worse. Right. So it's always, that balancing tactic. But it has changed, and the generation has changed as well. There does have to be a lot more of like, hey, this is what's going well. How do we make that 10 out of 10? And we continue to focus on that, and then we can look at other things.
Absolutely. You know, Dean Graziosi talks about that in his book, and I absolutely love it. He said the exact same thing. He said, you know, if we're constantly looking at fixing our negative attributes, you're not only does that suck the energy out of you, but now you're hiding, you're ignoring that amazing gift that you have. So he says the exact opposite, and exactly what you said is you're right. Focus on what you're good at, because I was going to bring up the word confidence, because, and then you talk about mindset, obviously, if you're feeling like, man, I can just absolutely kill it, you know, let's say as a trainer, one-on-one, face-to-face, and people just absolutely love being in front of me, great. That's confidence. That means they're going to feel good. That means they're going to want to do that more. And that will pour into these other things that they could use that ultimately, yes, they still need to develop. But when you're feeling a 10 out of 10 here, it's easier to address these other things that are maybe a 5 out of 10. Versus if you try to put all the focus on the 5, they're going to get frustrated. It's going to take them forever. And then there might, and then they fall off a lot of the times, right? So I absolutely love that. I was going to bring up a quote, and it was from Simon Sinek, and I want your thoughts on it too, but he talks about leadership, and leadership to him is not, it's being, you're not in charge of people around you. You're in their care is how I'm paraphrasing it, but essentially it's not, you're in charge of everybody else. It's you're in their charge.
So right? And I think I'm a big Simon Sinek guy. So I think the big one is, we're not responsible for the results. We're responsible for the people who are responsible for the results. So that's a Simon Sinek quote that, like, it's not the exact same one that you're referring to, but it is very similar. And like, that's exactly who I model my leadership style off of. And it's like, the funny part about it is, like, I've always inherently been a people person. And then I've never seen that style of leadership until Simon Sinek started being more vocal about his style. And I was like, holy crap, like, that's exactly the way that I see things. That's exactly the way that I want to come off as. And ever since that, like, Start With Why, Leaders Eat Last, Infinite Game, like, all those books have been the first 3 books that really I read about leadership, just to help me progress my career forward. Um, but yeah, like it's so true. Everything that you said in regards to that quote, it's like the results come when the people are feeling at their best, right? And everyone's happy and everyone's doing well. And then you all like, and then it's magic. It's fun. I come to
Mm-hmm.
work now and I don't have to do a lot. It's so fun watching my team perform at a 10 out of 10 level. And all I get to do is sit back and give praise. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the goal. This is fun for me. I don't even
Yeah,
feel like work anymore, right? And
absolutely.
that's the goal, you know?
Absolutely. And you know, and I would say in an environment like that, they're probably feeling the same way,
Yeah.
right? You would ask them and they would go, no, it's great. I love coming into work because my boss just tells me all these amazing things and I have fun. And if I have an issue, we talk about it, we figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So part of that phrase he talks about was being you're taking care of the people around you. So that was my question for you is how do you show them that? How do you show them that you care about them? Because there's other aspects of that I want to dive into as well, but how do you do that on a day to day that you show them that you care about them?
Yeah. So, man, the biggest thing that I see in any industry is anytime somebody walks into the club, the first question is always about work.
Yeah.
And that's always where leaders fall apart. I'm going to say bosses in this sense. That's where always bosses fall apart. It's like if my first question to you is, hey, why wasn't this done? Or hey, can you do this? Blah, blah, blah. And it's all related to work. I've already screwed up the day. Like
Yeah.
I want to learn about my people. So the first thing that I want to touch base on is how these guys are doing. And it's not even in the sense of like, hey, how are you? Like I know what's going on in their life. I know yesterday, oh, you went to a wedding. How was the wedding? I know
Yeah.
yesterday you were at your brother's birthday. How was the birthday? Like I want to know all of these little things about people and really listen and actively listen so that I can be a part of their life. Right. And once that vulnerability happens and that trust is built, then the relationship goes miles. But it's also an integrity thing. So
Mhm.
if I tell you I'm gonna do something, if I don't get it done, that's a reflection on me and you no longer trust me. All
Yeah.
relationships are based off of trust,
Yeah.
right? But like
100%.
the first 30 minutes of my day, man, is me and my staff in my office and me literally talking to them about their life, letting them know about my life and really building that relationship. And it
Mhm.
doesn't stay within the club, Nate. It goes without the club. So
Yeah.
we're not always here. This isn't the only place that I'm talking to my staff. Like last Friday, I bring my staff out for lunch. I want to talk to you one on one, have a conversation. In
Mhm.
Hawaii, we just won a trip to Hawaii, and 5 of my staff made it out of
That's
20.
awesome.
So a huge chunk of my staff was there. While we're there, every meal we go to, every dinner we go to, they're not paying for a thing. They
Hmm.
don't pay for a thing. And that's not because like and once again, money irrelevant for me. My investment into the relationship is going to pay dividends in the long run, right? Like I
Hmm.
don't care about the money for the one dinner. It's going to be the long run on what that
Hmm.
develops in the relationship and really builds the value between me and them. And
Hmm.
over time, that just progresses and progresses and progresses. And the relationships get deeper and deeper and deeper. So now when I do have to ask for something, it's not like, oh, he's asking me to do this. It's like, no, I want to do this for you
Hmm.
because I would do the same for them. And that's
Yeah.
the whole reciprocal
Yeah.
relationship that we have,
Yeah.
right? And if
Reciprocity.
that
Absolutely.
reciprocation's not there, then you've lost it. If I
Yeah.
don't hold my end of the bargain, then I've lost it. But it's like that's the most important aspect to me. So as I
Hmm.
said, it's like I can talk about the numbers, I can talk about that stuff, but people want to grow and get better. So I will
Hmm.
teach you that. I will help you become a better human as it relates to any aspect of your life. But
Hmm.
also, I want to see how I can help you in your everyday life too, to see if there's something that you want that you're not achieving because
Absolutely.
anything that you want to learn, I'll help you get there. And as I said, it's not just related to the numbers that are here at work, personal training,
Yep.
memberships, like cool, that stuff's awesome. We're all here for that because that's our job.
Yep.
But that's not where it stops for me. And I think
Yeah.
that's what takes it to the next level. And it's all those little things that we do to invest into the bank account of relationships. So that when
Yes.
I do have to ask for a deposit, it's not just me asking for stuff all the time. I've already invested a ton into that relationship, and it's very easy for me to ask for stuff in return.
I love that. And that's a great example that I think most people can understand. And I use the exact same thing when it comes to relationships with even couples in a relationship and anybody in that kind of relationship, intimate relationship. It's you're constantly depositing, you're constantly adding to that bank account. So if something does happen, because at the end of the day, stuff does happen,
Yeah.
right? Something will come up. You have a healthy balance there. So, and there's a lot, as you hit before, is you have a lot of trust there, which is so critical. So I was curious, what's an example of something that you do for your people that you're a leader to that is like an everyday thing that they come to you with? Or what's an example of something like that where it was not work related that you
Yes.
were totally wanting to help them with and did.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll talk about like without obviously I'm not going to get into names for privacy stuff, but like one of my individuals on my team had a very big passion to work his way up in this industry, but this industry is very frowned upon his family back at home, right? So
Oh.
he's in this very big dilemma of like, yeah, I want to please my family, but this is what makes me happy and what makes me passionate. And for
Mm.
their like culture, it's a lot about how much money you earn and all that type of stuff. So it's like it's just knowing that information and
Yeah.
having that conversation that already is a step forward, right? Because
Yeah.
that's not a normal conversation that you have with a boss employee type of situation. It's like you can talk
Totally.
about that stuff, but like I want to know so much about that so that I can help make sure that this kid is happy. Because if he's
Hmm.
not happy and he's dealing with these struggles, then that hurts me. And in the end,
Yeah.
that hurts the team. It hurts everything. If he's not happy, I'm not happy. Right. So
Yeah.
it's just like taking the time to sit down and have that conversation and game plan. Okay, so what pathway do we need to do? And what do we need to do to ensure that one, first and foremost, you're as happy as you possibly can be. And then in
Mm.
turn, once you start to develop and start making the money that you want to make, then your parents will start to be proud of you because there is progress in this industry. They just don't see that because they're in a different country. Right. So it's just like it's helping listening, being empathetic, and helping find solutions that may work in these situations to help these humans like live their best life possible, as happy as possible. And that's just
Hmm.
like a very slim example of like spending time investing in that conversation. It's like we have so much to do on a daily basis. I could easily just say, okay, hey, I don't want to hear about it. Let's focus on this. It's like, no, I want
Mm.
to spend half an hour to an hour learning about that so that we can propose a solution to make your problem that you're dealing with better. And the thing is like I use this word often, vulnerability.
Yeah.
So if I can get people to be vulnerable with me,
Yeah.
I also get vulnerable with people. Once you have vulnerability, that builds a lot of trust because
Yes.
it is very fragile to be in that state, right?
Yeah.
You're opening yourself up and then judgment is very common. Like you're being open to being judged,
Yeah.
right? So once we have that and we build that relationship, it's the stars are endless, right? You can keep going and it keeps building, and then in that case scenario, there's no really stopping. And then once
Yeah.
again, like these guys have been with me for 3 years plus. None of them want to quit. They're here
Yeah.
for a very long time because once again, we're working towards something great, and they know no matter what, I have their best interests at heart, right? So
Yeah.
it's like it's all of those little things, man. Yeah, and it's like one of my employees ended up in the hospital the other week. It's like,
Mm.
did I just let them be in the hospital? No, I'm driving to the friggin' hospital. I'm going to be by their side until they're doing better. And it's like
Yeah.
there's all of these little things that are like it's not just within work. I care about you outside of these walls too.
I
Yeah.
love that. And you know what, you said it and you kind of you mentioned it a couple times, but I think it's so critical because it flips the old saying on its head, the old saying being as soon as you come to work, you leave your personal stuff at the door. But the reality is that's not possible.
Yeah.
If you're going through a tough fight with your partner, it will show.
Yeah.
If you are going through financial struggles, it's going to show. If you didn't sleep last night because your kids are sick or something's going on, like it'll show no matter what. So that old saying, in my opinion, has no value.
Yeah.
It really does because you're essentially trying to tell the person, don't be who you are for this 8 hour block. And I think it's so kind of ruthless if you think about it.
Yeah.
And I love what you said because it was the exact opposite. It was and again, I wish I something I wish you were I wish you were my leader when I was being a trainer back in the day,
Yeah.
but it was you want them to be as happy as possible.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that because I don't think that that's practiced enough. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I know that's not practiced enough. And you're doing it there, which is amazing. But if your intentions is to constantly focus on people being happy, because at the end of the day, everybody just wants to be happy. When you think about their goals, when people talk about how much money they want to make, oh, I want to make this much money. I want to do this. I want to do this. Why? I want to be happy. Most of the time, it's happy,
Yeah.
loved, whatever,
Yeah.
still tying back to being happy. So when your goal is to help them be as happy as possible, why wouldn't people want to spend time with you?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't like you're just and this isn't like you're taking advantage of them. It's like I'm trying to help you get what you want,
Yeah.
whether or not you're here or somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that. And I know we need that more in a lot of different industries because a lot of different industries are still slow on the bandwagon of leave your personal stuff at the door. Don't talk about personal stuff. You punch in, you punch out. After that, it's fine. I think that's gone. I know it's gone too far. So for you to have that, I think is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder you're having success.
Yeah.
Like really, that's not a surprise by any means. So,
Yeah.
I was going to bring it up. Jocko Wilkins, I think is how you pronounce his last name, talks about,
Willing.
five,
Yeah.
Willing, okay, talks about five components of relationships. So he talks about trust, which we've hit on. There's a really good book there. If you haven't read it, it's called The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey Jr. Super good.
Right.
Talks about listening, respect, influence, and care. So how do you how do you bring those out from and create that in a relationship? I know there's a few different topics there, but even just something as simple as like respect and care, how do you bring that out of your people that are in your care?
Yeah. It's so funny because like this is something that's so inherent for me. Like I do have such like the people that I care about, I would do the world for, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
and my team works so hard for me. They do so much for me. And like the least I can do is try my best to return that favor with watching them do what they do on a daily basis. And that comes like, I can't even control that. That's just who I am. I go above and beyond too often and I don't know how to change that.
Mhm.
But like how I try and evoke it, man, I talked a little bit about it earlier is it's the integrity behind what you say you're going to do. So if
Mhm.
I tell you I'm going to do something by a certain time frame and I don't do that, then once again, like the care is gone because it shows that the promise I made to you wasn't important enough for me to hold true to the time frame that I given to you.
Yeah.
Right. And I think like it starts that people want to believe in people. Like if I continuously let you down, then how could you even believe that I care for you? Because it's not about like the concept of caring for somebody and actually caring for somebody are two completely different things.
Yes.
Like people read books. I have leaders who have read books and like, oh, I need to do this. Oh, I need to listen to my people. I need to talk to my people. Like you're reading it through a book. If I don't genuinely give a crap about you as a person and I'm
Yes.
just reading it telling me to care about you, like you're not going to go anywhere. And I can't teach that. You have to have that, right? And
Yeah.
that comes with like it's like me saying, hey, do you care about your mom? Why? Because you've
Yeah.
built a relationship with her for 18 to 20 years, however long you've been alive. It's
Yeah.
the same as my people. If I don't invest in the time in getting to know the people, then it's impossible for me to care about them.
Yeah.
Right. But I want that. These are going to be people who are going to be working hard for me. These are the reason, like this is the reason why I can feed my family. This is why I can afford a house. This is why I can do all of these things. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to do that. So that appreciation is endless. But I don't like once again, if I don't get the time to get to know people and build that and just care because I'm told to care, it doesn't work. I
Yeah.
have to genuinely actively listen and get to know people and remember things. I
Yeah.
remember your birthday. I
Yeah.
remember all of this stuff. I'm going to do something special for you on this day without you even knowing that I'm doing it for you. Like there's
Yeah.
all of these things that are not like in my opinion, it is going above and beyond with where it's at, but it should be kind of the norm. Like we
Yes.
should be doing these things just as human beings. Like these are
Yes.
people we care about. And when we miss those little things, like, oh, does he really care about me? Does he really give a shit about me? And then we
Mhm.
lose that caring aspect. And that's like it starts with the basics of relationships, in my opinion. But
Mhm.
I guess like my point in this situation is for me and the way that my mind runs, I think it should be normal, but then I see the way other leaders do things and it's way off. So
Yeah.
I just like in my head, I'm like, I don't get how you can't connect the dots, but then I'm my own person. That's just how I tick.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes to teach other leaders, hey, you just need to care. Because for
Yeah.
them, maybe they weren't taught how to care. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that are missing there, right? So I guess I've been lucky enough to have people who have cared for me for so long that that's taught me how to treat other people and how to be a better human in that sense, right?
Yeah. I love that. And to add to that, all those things you mentioned, I would say when I had, because I was helping trainers as well for a while, and I still do now, which is amazing. But I always start with it's your why and it's your heart. Because, and I think that's what you're doing really well is for you, it's like, well, this is just what you do because it's in your heart. Like you actually care. You have that why deep inside. All those things come from the heart. So if you truly deep down just generally care about humans and other people, it's a no-brainer. It's easy,
Yeah.
right? And thankfully, I think you were shown whatever reason, maybe growing up, maybe being, in sports, whatever, how to do that. But it all starts at the heart. And if you don't have that, and then obviously that's the most important thing of, even teaching a trainer how to sell, because ultimately you do have to sell, or anybody. What's your why? Like if you're doing it because you're, well, I just want to make a bunch of money, it's like, cool. It's not going to work.
No.
You're going to have some success, but it won't last.
Yeah.
Versus if you're just truly deep down in your heart and you genuinely just want to help people as much as you possibly can, and you want to just serve, that's the drive, and that's going to come through.
Yeah.
So my question for you then is, what are some of the daily things that you do for your team to show them that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so the big thing is, as I said, like you touched on the why behind what they want to do. So like goal setting with my team to just see not just from a work level, but from a personal level on what they want to achieve. Say,
Yeah.
hey, if your goal is to own a house, if your goal is to whatever, get married to your partner Joe, if your goal is to go on a vacation to Hawaii in 6 months, like all of these little things that are very important to these people, I want to know that. And the more
Yeah.
I know about that and the more I revisit that, the more powerful that conversation is as well. Because once again, it's not just about, oh, you need to sell this many sessions, you need to service this many sessions. Like, yeah, that's the income standpoint of it, but I don't even care about the income standpoint because there is no why behind that. But once I know the emotional aspect behind why you want to make that much money, it's like, okay, these are the things that you want to do, then that's what I focus on. It's not about making 150K a year. It's about making enough money so you can put your parents in a house, because right now they're living in a basement suite and they're not happy. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's all of those things that help compile. And once again, it gets personal. So the more that I know about that individual and what they want for the long term, the more I can help facilitate that success and have that conversation to get them towards that goal. So it's that constant revisiting of those things. And once again, like where I find a lot of the issue is we do those and then 5 months goes by and nobody said a word.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, what was the point of that exercise if I'm not going to hold you accountable and try and get you towards that standpoint? Right. So that's where we look at it. And I want to be an integral part of helping you get to that point. Because once we get there, you and I are both going to look at each other and give each other a big hug because we're so happy you got there. Yeah. Right. So it's just like, it's that type of stuff. And as I said, it's not like 90% related to themselves, 10% related to the job, because we are still trying to build a business, but it's all personal. Right. And the more they can focus on that, the more these other things start to, as you said before, waterfall into this big thing of success in several different plots of their life.
I love that. And you mentioned the accountability part. And this is a topic I find so interesting because there's a few different ways to do it that, I've had it in the past with leadership where it was like, I'm keeping you accountable, but it felt like it was like, no, you're not keeping me accountable. You're trying to build a business. You can feel it. And I guess it goes back to the heart, but how do you have those conversations being authentic and to show them that you actually care about them and this isn't about you?
Yeah. Good question. And I mean, like, this is something early on in my career I completely struggled with. So I became a manager at 23 years old. That's when I started as a fitness manager. And that was like, I didn't know how to hold people accountable because, as I said, like my biggest thing was building relationships. And luckily for me, that worked for me because everyone was like, we were all on the same page about wanting to be successful, right? We were always a top performer. It really worked because people knew that I truly cared about them. And in the end, the accountability would have came easy if I just did it because we had such good relationships. But I was so scared of this thought process of reprimand, this thought process of like discipline that I was ending up like, I didn't want to ruin my relationships by holding people accountable the wrong way. So I just didn't do it. Right. So that was like the first 5 to 6 years of my career. Still got by very fine. But as I said, there was an area where I was letting people down because I could have helped them become better at their craft, but I didn't because of that fear. As I've progressed and gotten older and a little bit more mature once you have kids, my thought process on accountability is way different. And like we all need accountability. I need accountability.
Totally.
We all get very complacent within what we do because it's the same thing daily. So if I'm not holding people accountable, eventually you either lose that person or they check out or they're not becoming the best version of themselves. And as I said, that's my passion. That's why I'm here. So for me, like the accountability process is so black and white because in the end, if I've done goal setting correctly, it's not my idea, Nate. It's their idea. They've come to me with their goals. I haven't made those goals. These are their goals, and it all comes back to that. So if you tell me you want to make this amount of money because this is what you want to buy for whoever, that's what I'm talking to you about. It's like, hey, I have a goal to get you to this certain circumstance. if I do not hold you accountable to this goal, because we've already mapped out that this is how you're going to get there, then I'm letting you down because we didn't even get close to this specific thing of 150K to buy that house for your parents to get them out of the basement suite.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the stuff that I'm remembering. So I have these conversations that actually relates to what they told me. If the goal came from me, it's a worthless goal. But I don't do any of the talking. Literally, hey, this is yours. Here's your piece of paper. You tell me everything. I want to hear all from you about what you want. I will write down notes so I do not forget, but I want you to tell me everything that's important to you. So as I listen to that and I actively remember that, I don't need the piece of paper, Nate. I remember this stuff because this is important to you. If I need that piece of paper, I've already fallen short. Yeah, we forget things, but this is your person. Listen to your person. Okay, so that's the whole conversation. Then when it comes down to where we're falling short that we made the commitment on, the conversation is easy because it's right back to what you want. So it's either, hey, this is what you wanted. How do we fix this so we can get you to this goal that you set for yourself? Or do we need to sit down and revamp this goal because maybe we were a bit too optimistic on what this goal was? Because I want you to hit it. That's all that matters to me is you hit it. I don't care what it is, you know?
Yeah.
And there was another big saying. It's like, I forget how it was, but it's something like, if you aim for the ground and you hit, or you aim for the sky and you miss, I'd rather you aim for the sky and you miss. So it's also an opportunity for me to have a conversation, say, if this goal is too easy, I want you to be better. We need to talk about that too, to just make sure what you're setting for yourself is something that we both think that you're capable of hitting.
Yeah. You know, and I like what you said there too, is that when you talk about that goal, it isn't just this is a goal and that's it. It's in concrete. It's like, no, maybe we did shoot a little too high on this. Maybe your first year being a trainer, coming out and making 150 grand is a little bit excessive because you don't have this. And I love your passion. Maybe it's a 3-year plan.
Yeah.
Right. And then like you said before, it becomes about a conversation and it's about them.
Yeah.
Right. And you said it earlier, which I absolutely loved, is it's a lot, like when you're going through all this, it's a lot of listening. Yeah. Right. And I definitely think that's missing. You talked about earlier about having a fear of keeping people accountable. And I want to just, look at that a little bit because we all have fears. How did you move through that fear? And was there a scenario that you had that epiphany of like, oh, right, I don't have to, I can be this person. It's okay. A good example for myself was being a trainer. I was always so concerned with same thing. How do my clients feel about me? And if I ask for more money, or if I say, hey, you can't do that time, they're going to not want to train with me. Yeah. And then I had that epiphany. And as soon as I asked for it, they were like, fine. Oh, that's okay. And they almost respected me more. And I was like, I remember just being totally blown away going, oh, right. It's okay. So do you remember that moment for yourself and what helped you move through that?
Yeah. So it was near probably the last 1 to 2 years that I was at Good Life. Mm-hmm. At Good Life, what I did when I got there is I built my team off of a lot of people who I went to school with because I knew they were human kinetics degrees, and then a lot of people that I played football with because I knew football was a big leadership thing. If I can bring these football players over, it's a very it's what I wanted. I wanted a team, and that's what I try to bring over. So that kind of convoluted the relationship a little bit where I was so scared to hold this one trainer accountable, although I knew his potential was through the roof. And the things that kid is doing now is insane. And I think a lot of it is because of this change that we made, right? So I was always scared to talk to him about it. His hours were never where they needed to be, missing sessions, all this type of stuff. And then I had I had some good mentors at Good Life. And I remember having a conversation and he let me know, he's like, what you're doing is you're not making anyone's life any better. You're actually making people's lives worse by allowing them to just skate through and go through the motions and not hold them accountable to things that you know that they're capable of, that they want for themselves. So it's not me once again telling them how Good Life was. Oh, you have to hit 120. This guy didn't even want 120. It was a 100-hour trainer, but he wasn't even hitting that, right?
Right.
So it was just then I sat down with him and I literally had the heart-to-heart conversation and spoke to him like a true family member, true friend, and just let him know exactly how I felt. I said, man, what you're doing is so far off of what I think you're capable of and what I think you think you're capable of. Your potential is so high and I see so much in you. And I know there's so much that you can do and you're just going through the motions. And I think you're doing yourself a disservice by doing that. And it was literally didn't bring up goals, didn't bring up anything like that, although that stuff's important. It was literally a face-to-face, heart-to-heart conversation. Yeah. As soon as that ended, what he did is he went out, he made stuff happen. And then a year later, he comes to me and say, hey, man, I still remember that
Hmm.
conversation. If that conversation didn't happen, I wouldn't be at this outcome I am at today. The guy
Wow.
owns 2 studios, is running his
Wow.
own personal training facility in 2 different studios, just opened his second one 3 months ago. I was at
Wow.
the opening visit. And this is the
Wow.
stuff that I'm talking about too. I haven't worked at Good Life for 6 years. I'm at the
Yeah.
guy's opening visit for his club because I still support what he's doing in the industry. I still
Yeah.
support him as a person,
I
right? And
love
like I
that.
want to be there for that stuff. So just like seeing that progression and seeing that aha moment, I'm like, man, maybe I'm not doing this right. Maybe there's ways
Yeah.
that I can do it better. And I knew I had the qualities to be an exceptional manager, but there was things missing within my skill set that I needed to improve, and that was one of them. So that
Yeah.
one moment allowed me to go have more of those conversations, then more of those conversations, then more of those conversations. And once again, I've never had somebody say, "Hey, you're a jerk. You know, what are you doing
Yeah.
having this conversation with me?" It always turned out to, man, that changed my life.
I
And,
love
and then
that.
I was like, man, that's why I'm here. That's what
Yeah.
fulfilled me. Those are the conversations that give me momentum. I thrive off of that stuff, right? So yeah, that
Absolutely.
for me, that was the moment.
You know what? That's awesome. And one, I loved hearing that story. Two, I got goosebumps to be honest from it because you know you brushed over it a little bit, but I think it needs to be reiterated is that you spoke from the heart. You didn't let your mind get in it with the numbers and this guy's got to hit these numbers and his goals. It was just like, man, I see you as a person
Yeah,
and I see your potential and you're not living up to it. And I'd imagine if I was there listening to that, it was something along the lines of, what can I do to help pull that out?
yeah,
Is something what you might have said, or maybe if you just say it now. But I think that's so amazing. And more importantly, it inspired him. And I think that's what's missing is and recognizing that you can be a leader and that doesn't have to mean that they're right, that you're benefiting right now from it. And like I said, the guy left, he's doing his own thing now, but how amazing is that? Like truly, like that's that, yeah, like I said, I got goosebumps listening to it, right? Like that's
yeah,
super cool. And I think I know that's what we need more of. I know because I've seen it in industry after industry, in small business, big businesses, is that you have this heartless, and see some people try, and I get it, but they truly don't speak from the heart,
yeah,
right? And more importantly, they don't take the time, as you said, to find out who that person is. Because if you, let's say, didn't go into depth and find out who he was, you would know his potential. And you go, you know what? They're actually, you might go, or you know what? I think they're fine, right? But you knew their potential
yeah,
and you wanted to pull that out. And a tool I always use in terms of discussions, hard discussions with people is, right, I see you, you're here. How can I pull this out of you?
yeah. Get
Or
you
what
to,
do you need from me?
yeah,
And what does that look like to you? And that's like the magic thing there, because sometimes you'd be like, oh, well, keep me accountable. Cool. What does that mean to you?
yeah,
Because accountability for some people is, honestly, man, just check in and say hi and you know, remind me. Other people, it's like, let's sit down and have a business meeting. Other people, it's, you know what, I'm actually going through this family thing. If you can help me with that, then this, right? But it's
yeah,
what does it look like to them?
yeah,
So I absolutely love that you did that. And again, it was from the heart.
yeah,
I do have a question for you.
yeah.
Again, it sounds like you've had a ton of amazing moments, which is so cool. What have been a low moment that you've experienced, and how did you work through that?
Yeah, for sure. So something that I've always struggled with, that I still struggle with, is something I call impulse control.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm somebody who, what comes with passion is emotion,
Yeah.
right? So it's,
Yes.
and I think those two go hand in hand. I wouldn't be as good as I am if I wasn't as emotionally invested as I am, right?
Yeah.
But that does lead to some decisions where something will happen that's like, I cannot control the emotion and the outcome is not what I want it to be. So it ends up being like not a response that I want it to be, not the calm, like thoughtful. It's all driven by emotion, and I do not like that, right? So that was something that, like, especially as a young kid, being in
Mm, of
management so early, I struggle with that a lot because I'm
course.
very, very passionate, but I'm also very, like, I'm very sure of myself and the way that I do things. So if it doesn't go in that direction as a young kid, you respond the wrong way, right?
Mhm.
And
Of
then the
course.
biggest thing, yeah, the biggest thing that I've tried to do to overcome that, and it's been way better now, but I will never, if I feel that moment coming, I will never respond within the moment. I
Okay.
will never respond to them like, and it goes the same with my wife and I. So if I'm about to have an argument and I know it's not going to turn in that direction, the conversation I need to have is like, hey, I need to take this moment to just
Yeah.
collect my thoughts, calm myself down, and then we're going to have a conversation so we can have a productive conversation where it's not emotionally driven and it leads to us having animosity towards each other. Because I don't
Yeah.
want that for our relationship,
Of
right?
course.
Do I fail on this still every single day? 100%, right?
Mm.
That's the hardest thing in my leadership standpoint, and even as my relationships at home. I need to be better at that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still an area of opportunity, but always what I've found is I'm a lot more rationally thinking when I give myself the time to cool down and really
Hmm.
think about, okay, how did I make this person feel? Why did I make this person feel that way? Why did I respond that way? And how do I approach these things better? And how do we get back on the same page to get the relationship where it needs to be? Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, and luckily doing that, like I've never really damaged a lot of relationships through it because people are very understanding when we have that relationship. Like we're
Hmm.
very easy to understand each other, but it is something that once again it's an area of opportunity and it will continue to be until I can fully get it under control.
I
Yeah.
like that. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I definitely appreciate and agree with what you said before, is taking that time to recognize where you're at and start asking those questions in your own head. Because sometimes what'll happen is you start playing the blame game,
Yeah.
and the questions are focused on other people.
Yeah.
And it's, well, why did they do this? Why did they do this? What's going on here? What versus, right, put the power back on yourself. Because I would say wherever you point the blame is where you give the power.
Yeah.
So what can I do to change this? What can I do to have a better conversation? What can I do to come at this more calm
Yeah.
and be a better person? And ultimately, I would say it's like, I just look at like the big picture. Who do I want to be down the road? Right? Do I want to be the guy that can handle this stressful scenario and have that emotional flexibility and that emotional fitness to be able to take this? Or do I want to be the guy that freaks out and loses it and then, like, as you said, damages that relationship? And yeah, sometimes you have that bank there, but why test it?
Yeah.
Right? If you don't need to,
Yeah.
call the timeout. I need a break. It's
Yeah.
okay. And I love that you even do that with your wife, and me and my wife do the exact same thing. And this is why I meditate every day.
Yeah.
Because for me, that's like a chance for my emotions and my brain to just reset. This is why I exercise almost every day.
Yeah.
This is why I have these like certain practices in place. So that way, sometimes I meditate twice a day when it's been a stressful day, just to clear that and
Yeah.
just to go, no, I need 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And then we're going to talk about this. And then I can be in a really good position. And
Yeah.
I know you can as well.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed for myself is something even simple as like body language when I do have that conversation.
Yeah.
Am I standing up over top of them, being as big as I can? Am I
Yeah.
trying to sit down and just be more relaxed? Like those little things
Yeah.
make a difference, right?
Yeah.
So no, I think that's awesome. How do you find this ties into being a parent? Because
Yeah.
your boys are young. I think you have two of them. Is that correct?
Yeah. 2 boys, 5 and 2. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So still a little young, but how do you find these skills you're learning here and you're practicing tie into being a parent? Because parenting is just it's such an adventure. And along that venture, you have some amazing highs and you have some lows.
Yeah.
So how do
Yeah.
you find that ties
Yeah.
in?
I mean, like it's so funny because it is very parenting is very relatable to leadership. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like a lot of the stuff that I do on a daily basis is things that I think about. Okay, this is the type of stuff I want to evoke to my children as well because I have the same goal for them. Like
Yeah.
nobody wants their kids to not be happy and not be successful, right? Like
Yes.
those are the two things. But I always start with like the main phrase that I always talk to. Like Lewis talks all the time now, rather than
Mhm.
starting to talk to you. But the main phrase that I've been working on him since 3 years old is like, hey, what's the most important thing? And it's being kind. So every single time a moment comes up where he's frustrated, it's like, okay, what's the most important thing?
Mm.
What matters? Being kind, being kind, being kind. So we're trying to like establish this thing of like it is about how you treat other people. You can't control other people's outcome. You can only control your own. So if
Yes.
I create
Yes.
I choose my own actions. Somebody does something wrong, that doesn't mean I need to do something wrong. They
Yes.
want to be mean, I can still be kind. I'm going to kill them with kindness because that's who
Mm.
we are. It's like that's who I want my kids and myself to be known as, and my wife. Like
Yeah.
always, like, and that's really important to me. Um,
Hmm.
so with that situation, it's like it is all the same. Actually, being a parent has taught me to become a better leader because it
Oh,
taught me the big P word, and that's patience. because these
Yeah.
kids, like, they don't learn right away. And it's the same with people I'm teaching how to do things. I have to remind myself, like, hey, it may take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, and then when they get it, holy, like, that is amazing. But I
Yeah.
never had that same amount of patience until I had kids, because it does take a longer experience. But once again, the worst thing that I see is when we try to do things for them. They are
Yes.
capable of doing things on their own. We're just trying to rush the process. Oh, it's faster if I do it. Oh, it's
Yes.
faster if my wife does it. It doesn't matter. Time is important, but give them the time to do it. Oh, he
Mhm.
wants to climb that thing. Cool. If he needs my support, I'll help him. I'll make sure he's safe, but I want him to climb it on his own. I want
Yes.
him to do the dishes on his own. I want him to put
Yeah.
his garbage away on his own. All of these things that we constantly, I guess, handicap our kids or
Yep.
employees in by doing everything for them, right? And that's the situation where it's learned me to be a heck of a lot better. Is I will allow them, be patient, have them do things, and it's the same thing as at work. Hey, you're not going to learn unless you fail. We
Yeah.
want to fail. Fail is how we
Yeah.
learn. If you don't fail, you're not going to learn, and we
I love
want
that.
to fail. So I
Yes.
see them fail all the time. But what do we do from it? We talk about it, we learn from it. And then what happens the next time, man? They complete it. How
Mhm.
fulfilled do you think they are once they complete it?
Yeah.
It's this new a hit of dopamine of so much excitement. And as I said, it goes hand in hand because it's the exact same thing at work. We can't do everything for everyone. We're not a million of us. There's one of us. But if I can teach everyone else to live to that level, I can teach my kids to be functional on their own. I'm just a support system. They're very good at doing their own thing.
Mhm.
That's what I want. I'm developing leaders. I want
Yeah.
leaders. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's what we need more of. We need more kind, heartful, caring leaders,
I
and
agree.
that's what we need. So
I 100% agree.
yeah,
And, I love that you said that time, I love that you're able to pull that in from being a parent to being a leader now. And that's definitely, I think a lot of parents can relate is having that patience there because that you are being tested.
yeah,
But I love what you said before. And that's something I wish I did earlier as a parent is I would always step in or the kid's mom would step in and, and you do that enough. Well, then the kids just sit there
yeah,
and you're not actually empowering them. You're not building self-confidence, like you said. And I love that you're doing that is that letting them fail,
yeah,
letting them fall, making them clean up, making them do, and I'm realizing now, thankfully, my partner now, Emily, my wife, Emily, has been so amazing for that and helped me realize that I wasn't doing that before with my kids. And now that I'm doing that, it's a huge difference. Absolutely huge difference, especially with the kids, is making their lives a little bit difficult.
yeah,
And it's okay. Like they're
yeah,
okay because they had it pretty good. So making them do the dishes, making them clean up. I'm even trying to implement this thing now where once a week you do something just difficult that you just don't want to do. Make you shovel a bunch of dirt
yeah,
just to give you that little bit extra stress because as we know, that failure and that those stressful things will make you stronger.
yeah,
Right. And I say stress makes you strong again, as long as it's in a certain capacity. But essentially, you're getting hit with these little challenges and it builds up their confidence because then they go, right, I remember I can actually do this. I can do this. And they have a big bank of references now. And I'm trying to continue to build this bank of references that they can handle stresses. Right. Because I've seen it with a lot of 20-year-olds and mid-20s now where their parents did everything for them.
yeah,
And now they're becoming these adults that get stressed out and they're having anxiety over having to work a job and go home and do laundry and make dinner.
yeah,
And you're like, that's just a normal day.
yeah,
They never had to build up to that.
yeah,
And so that's what I'm trying to ingrain with them. And as you said, I love that you learn that patience because it's true. Test them. And now you're able to tie it into adults because I think that ties back more into their trust bank because now if they're like, look, man, this guy, he let me fail 10, 20, 30 times. And every time he was unwavering in his response, huge amount of trust.
yeah,
Huge, not just for that relationship, but even your relationship with your partner.
yeah,
So now you're just unwavering in how you respond. And then when it does work, boom, they're like, wow, I can do this. I don't even, and then they're just driven to do more. So I
yeah,
think that's so huge and needed. And as you said, we need leaders that can do that. So what would be I'm just had some notes here, but what would be a lesson for leaders that are coming up right now, people that are wanting to move into that role? What would be some lessons that you wish you would have known when you were 23 and you started? What are like some maybe three things that you were like, this is game changer?
Yeah, I think we've talked about it very like endlessly in this conversation. Is like one, know your people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's number one, know your people. Number two, and this one's like early on in my career, and I had this luckily, but have a vision. It's like
Mm.
what do you want? And because what happens too, man, is in any team atmosphere, even if you really care about people, you really want those relationships, because obviously everything I'm talking about is half glass full. There's
Yeah.
obviously the other side of things where it's not a perfect world. Like everyone I've hired hasn't all been perfect. It hasn't all, like, I've tried to care. It doesn't always work. You know what I mean? You're
Yes.
never going to see eye to eye with 100% of people, right?
Mm.
So what I learned at the beginning of my career is when I have this vision of what I wanted, and we referenced the club that I took over. So that club started with 13 trainers. I took it over. 9 of them left. So I
Oh,
was left with whatever, yeah, whatever that difference is. So I was left with that
oh,
amount of trainers, right?
yeah.
So the thing that I'm trying to get to is those people didn't see my vision. And in the end, losing people sucked. Did that hurt? Yes. I hate losing people. But in the
Hmm.
end, we're never going to have the same vision. I'm a new leader taking on a club. If everyone already saw my vision, then I wouldn't even need to rebuild. It would have been a fine club.
Yeah.
No, not everyone has that vision. And that is okay. Because also, what you don't want
Mm.
to do is you don't want to reflect your integrity and just bring on anyone. And then you have people on the team that are the bad apple. And then you're
Yeah.
allowing them to do anything. And then the whole tree gets rotten. Right. So
Mm.
it's like visionary differences are fine. And us parting ways is fine. Did I do everything in my power to try and develop that and try and make it 10 out of 10? If my answer is yes, then my self reflection is done. I've done
Yeah.
that. It wasn't the right person. That is fine. That's going to happen. So
Yeah.
have my vision, and then now I build a team upon that vision.
Yeah.
You want to have a high standard for yourself. You want to be successful. Come work for me. I will get you there. But if you
Yeah.
don't want those basic things, no matter how well I get to know you and I try to get that out, you have to have a certain level of want for yourself for you to help develop to the best individual that you can possibly be. Right.
Yeah.
And as I said, like I've had trainers come to me still from Good Life who I met. So back when I was at home, I went to the gym. A trainer that I used to work with comes to me and says, "Hey man, I should have listened to you. I
Mm.
should have been more respectful towards you. Like, I'm so sorry. Now, everything that you taught me, if I did that 5 years earlier, I would have been way more successful than I am right now." So
Mm.
it's like these words. And in the end, I'm
Cool.
like, okay, that is totally fine. That's a great self reflection of yourself. And now
Yeah.
in myself, I know, okay, am I doing it the right way? Yeah. Are people going to leave? Yeah. But it all comes down to like my umbrella is still my umbrella, and what my standard is still my standard. I'm not
Hmm.
going to compromise on that, because if somebody's not willing to hit that standard, then they aren't going to reach their potential. You have to have a certain level of want. Okay,
Yeah.
so like new leader, that's number two. Obviously, number one, get to know your people. Number two is more of a, I guess, glass half empty, or the negative side of it, and what you need to do to overcome that. And then if I were to say three, don't forget about your investments and your deposits. So the relationship doesn't just start on day one. I don't learn all about you today, learn all about your goals, learn everything about you. And then as the job goes by and you end up performing, I don't forget about you.
Mm.
You're not in the wind doing your own thing. I'm still investing in that relationship, still making that my priority, because the more that I do that, the better it's going to be down the road for everyone. Because even if
Yeah.
you're 10 out of 10 at your job, we're not 10 out of 10 in every aspect of our life. How
Yeah.
are you with your financial? How are you with your investments? How are you with your future progress for your life? Like, there's all of these things that I want to see if you're
Yeah.
open to sharing with me, that I can help you with, because you've mastered the job.
Yeah.
You've killed the job. You don't need me anymore for that aspect, unless there's something you want to talk about. I think you're doing awesome, but there is other aspects of your life that I can continue to invest in to help make you a better person long term. So it
Yeah.
doesn't the ball doesn't stop rolling, is what I'm trying to say. So those
Yeah.
three things are what I would talk about in regards to new leadership.
I absolutely love that. Especially the last one, like you said, is it's because right. Sometimes I find those the personal side, and especially with the goal setting, it's cheesy, it's lame, it's like, because I've done it in different companies,
Yeah.
and you hear it and you're like, this is just a walk and dance. Like I'm not like I'm just walking through these or going through these motions. This isn't,
Yeah.
there's no care, there's no attention here, right? But as you said, how else can I make you grow? How else can I be here to support you? Again, relationships, finances, maybe it's like I said, you move future. That's huge. And it's going back into that care, and that truly, in my opinion, that shows them. Like if I was working for you, to me, I'd be like, wow, this guy actually cares what who I am as a person
Yeah.
before the business.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think if you put that first, and that ties back in your rule number one, right? I guess it ties into that, is that when you know somebody just so well and you take the time to learn everything about them, it's a no-brainer,
Yeah.
right? It's just easy, which I think is so wonderful that you're doing that. And as I mentioned before, we need more of that. And it's missing. And I think we can start replicating you. Is there any way we can start replicating Dylan?
Yeah. 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 I've
Right?
tried.
So
It doesn't work. But
well, no, but you are doing it. The beautiful thing is what you're doing with your team is that essentially that's what you're doing,
yeah.
right? Is you're showing them the way, right? A way that works, that they understand, they buy into. And that's a way, and this is what I love the best is that everybody wins.
Yeah.
No matter what, whether you're, and you said it before, is like whether you're working for me or not, it's just a matter of difference in visions. It's
Yeah.
not like you hate that person and think they're bad and awful employee and whatever. It's just no, they had a vision for something else and I have a vision for this. And
Yeah.
that's okay. We can part ways.
Yeah.
And as you said, now you have guys coming back going, wow, your vision actually made a lot more sense,
Yeah.
which is great. And they might not do that, but that's still great. It's okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's absolutely amazing. How do you, there's one more thing I want to ask you. So the podcast is called the Emotional Fitness Podcast. When you think
Yeah.
about emotional fitness, what comes to your mind and what are things that you do daily to be able to handle these, like a team like this? Because it's dynamic, there's lots going on, you have lots of personalities, a lot of different energies coming in and out all the time. What do you do to be able to handle that?
Adapt. That's the biggest thing. Like, I think you can't treat every single individual the exact same way. And I
Yeah.
always use this concept. It's called like what makes that person's clock tick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because everyone ticks a very different way. And if I were to address every single person the exact same way, then it does come off as disingenuous, right? And it goes
Yeah.
right back to everything I've talked about at the beginning. The more I know about people, the more I can adapt to who these people are as humans, and I
Yeah.
can help cater to that need because it's not about me, it's about them in this situation. Like I don't need them to adapt to me. I'm trying to serve you. I'm serving you. You're not serving like yeah, in result you're serving me, but I don't look at it that way. I'm
Yeah.
serving you to become a better person, and by
Mm.
product of that everything else will come into line, right? So I think like adaptability is huge, being able to like deal with different personalities, understand different people. And there was a book I read, it's like how to talk to anyone. That's what the book is called, How to Talk to Anyone. And it was
Yeah.
a book just about like that exactly. It's like there's conversations and there's questions that we can ask that can apply to everyone, but the answer is always going to be different. And how we learn about that answer and how we adapt what we're doing towards that answer shows our level of care for that individual, right? Because everyone, as you said at the beginning, it's like need to know your why. Everyone has a different why. Everyone has a
Yeah.
different purpose. But if my response to every single why and every single purpose is the exact same, then I'm a fraud. I'm a phony.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
to adapt myself to mold myself into each individual to just understand them a bit more. And it goes right back to like, oh, how do you do that, Dylan? I listen. I actively listen. I
Yeah.
remember stuff. Something that somebody told me 6 months ago, I still remember. And I'll bring it up. I'll bring up the exact date, the exact stuff, like, because that's how important it was to me at that time frame. Right. And
Mhm.
there's examples of that across my entire team, but it showcases once again, do I really listen to what you're telling me? Or as you said, is this just an exercise that we're dancing around that has no meaning behind it? Like it
Mhm.
has to have some sort of meaning. Right. And I think once again, the more we do things and we don't follow up with them or don't have those conversations, the more it does come off as fraud. And we don't
Yeah.
want that. Like we want the relationship to be the last thing from fraud. So that's like the best advice I could give there. And it's not easy. You're never going to connect with every single person,
Yeah.
which is, as I said at the beginning, but there is ways to still get to know people. And what I found works as well is if you don't want to be vulnerable with me, let me be vulnerable with you. Let me teach
Yeah.
you a little bit about me. I'm fine with that. I
Yes.
want to open up to you. And I
Yes.
tell a little bit. I have a very tough story. I'm fine with sharing that with them, right?
Yeah.
And let them talk to me. Let them learn a little bit about what makes me tick. And then if that builds a relationship, awesome. If not, then I've had a great conversation with somebody who's learned a little bit more about me. Maybe they're not ready to share with me, and that's fine. And maybe down the road they will be. Yeah,
Absolutely. And oh my goodness, I'm trying to remember the name who said it, but anyway, that's how you build bonds is shared
yeah,
struggle.
yeah,
Truly, like lasting bonds. So, and I love that you have that vulnerability, like Brene Brown talks about, that vulnerability and showing it first,
yeah,
I think is so critical because a lot of the times, especially as guys, and even more now in today's society, it's like I'm, recognizing that like you can be vulnerable and strong.
yeah,
You can be this person that opens up and just saying, yeah, it hasn't been easy. Here's my struggles.
yeah,
and still be a figure that can be a leader and somebody
Yeah.
that can stand with him and help them grow and make those tough calls when need to be made because
Yeah.
that comes a time. And as you said before, to kind of tie in back in the other way is that flexibility. So they did a study in 2020 and they talked about that is the one thing that determines success in business is flexibility.
Yeah.
And I love how you're applying it here, being not just flexibility in the business, but flexibility within yourself as
Yeah.
a leader to be able to handle those people.
Yeah.
And something that came to mind when you mentioned that is like, that takes a lot of time,
Yeah.
but you see the value in it. And I think this is the missing key is like, maybe people know how to do that. Maybe people have read the books, as you said, but truly being willing to invest the time into that person to take that 20 minutes, 30 minutes, even you have a list of 100 other things. And
Yeah.
that's where I know I struggled in the past. It's like I had a list of 50 things I'm listening, but I'm not actually listening
Yeah.
to recognize like this is important right here. This person's emotions, how they're feeling, their struggle, whatever it is, high or low, is important. So
Yeah.
taking that time to actually be there with them. And you
Yeah.
talked about active listening. Real quick, what does that look like and mean to you?
Like the term active listening.
Yeah, for you, because
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
seen different people do it
Yeah.
and they're listening, but you're going like you're listening to me, but
Yeah.
you're turning this way, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like basics of it is like eye contact, paying attention. And then for me, like when I think about the term active listening, if you tell me something in this, whatever, something about you that's important or anything that revolves around your life in a 20-minute conversation, an hour later, can I come back to you and repeat what you told me? And if
yeah,
I can't, I didn't listen to you. And
I
that's a
love
problem.
that.
Right.
Yeah,
So that's how I measure it. And in the end, it's like, I'm not throwing it back in your face to prove it to you that I was listening to you. It's more of like, okay, here, a month's gone by. Hey man, you told me this, this, and this. How's all that going? Hey, how was your
yeah,
brother's wedding on June 12th? One of my associates, she graduates on June 11th. It's like, how is that graduation going to go? It's on a Tuesday. It's like all these little things that I
mm,
remember because that's important to her. I want that. Her birthday's June 26th. It's like it's all of these things that I want to remember. So when that date comes, I don't need a reminder from my phone that it's your birthday. We've talked about it in person, right? Like
yeah.
these are things that you communicated to me. So those are all the things that I just want to know so that when those times come, I can make it that much more special to make these people feel like they're really cared about. And I think that goes
Mm,
in so many relationships. It's not just work, man. It's not just
yeah,
people that I'm working with. Like I want to do that for my kids. I want to do that
yeah.
for my family. Like there's a lot of people that I want to model that by because it shows a different level of care. And that active listening component of truly giving a crap about who you are as a person and what means a lot to you. Because if you told me, it's something that's important to you, and I don't want to
Yeah.
forget. Yeah,
I think you hit the nail on the head there. That phrase right there is exactly it. I would say to just to reiterate that is right. If they've told it to you, it's important
yeah,
because how many times you have a conversation with them, oh, how'd you do? Oh, good. And it's
yeah,
nothing. You're like, okay, well, and yeah, you can dig obviously, but if they take the time and you're like, hey, how'd this go or whatever, and they tell you about it, it actually matters.
yeah,
So to remember that and realize like they're vulnerable enough to share that with you, especially if it's something high, well, anything high or low,
yeah,
especially the low stuff. You need that. That's a gold nugget that you can deposit into that trust bank.
yeah,
And more and in a really like honest way, it's like you actually care about them. As you said, you want to know because you care about them as a human. And the way I was looking at this for myself, it's like I'm always curious.
yeah,
I'm always actually just really curious. When they tell me these stories, I like put myself in that story. I'm like, oh wow, the wedding was like this, and huh, and I'd imagine it and play the video in my head. So it's like, oh, that's actually super cool, and that would be really fun. And I'd imagine this and this and this. So for me, that's my strategy is like watch it with the story they tell me, I watch it like a movie in
yeah,
my head because I'm very visual that way. So if I see it, it's like, oh, well, that's just another, oh, this is the movie of them doing this. And you're able to pull that back out
yeah,
and which is again, it's just showing them more that you care and showing them your heart,
yeah,
which I 100% know we need more of.
yeah,
And being leader is so critical now more than ever. And to be able, more important than like you're doing is to have not just because I've seen this lots before, well, I'm a leader. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. And you're a leader in the fitness industry, but you do drugs on the weekend
yeah,
and you work 16 hours a day and it's like, well, that's not what people want because people want leaders that they like, know and trust, but really want to be like a lot of times.
yeah,
So when it's like, hey, here's Dylan that has figured out this balance, that recognizes that his home life is really important,
Yeah.
that his wife is super important to him and spends time there and cares about me and is successful. It's like, cool, that's a guy I want to attach to. That's somebody, even for myself, I want to jump onto. And I've noticed that when I do seminars and certain, learning events and a guy talks about their life and they're like, yeah, having, Dean Graziosi is a really great example. For him, it's all about having that balance. He doesn't want to have, yeah, you could work 16 hours a day, but it's like, well, and make all this money, but then what? Then you're
Yeah.
spending your money to have more time. Well, that's pointless. Why not just
Yeah.
have the time now?
Yeah.
And for him, and that's what resonated with me.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm getting at is when people resonate with that, because especially now, especially after COVID, it's people don't want to work 16 hours a day
Yeah.
just to make a lot of money. How can I make a lot of money or how can I be successful in the financial world and serve a
Still
lot of
fun.
people
Yeah.
and still have a life
Yeah.
and have kids and
Yeah.
be there for their practices and have that balance and have a relationship that actually matters. And when you emulate that and when you do that day to day, what you say has more power,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I love that you're doing that. And I'm super grateful we were able to do this because honestly, you've inspired me. And I know that there's a lot of people that can learn from this and that need to hear stuff like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, any last bits of advice or things you'd want to just chime in on before we wrap this up?
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of piggybacks on a lot of what you said just at the end there, but I think like obviously leadership's important. Obviously developing people is important, but if you aren't filling up your own cup first, it's going to be very hard for you to fill up other people's cup. So
Yeah.
we talked a lot about like, at that seminar, you learned about time, you learned about work. For me, my mindset has changed completely where I was all about the grind. I was all about working.
Yeah.
It is no longer my priority, man. My priority
Yes.
is time and time with
Yes.
my family, right? It's
Yes.
experiences. And that's the most like the one commodity that we all have the same of is time. The same
Yes.
amount in the day, we all have the same. How we choose to use that time is up to us. So if we
Mhm.
choose to work 18-hour days, yeah, like I mean, it isn't sustainable, and that's what I've
Mhm.
learned. And I think like there has been a mindset shift in regards to like commodity is not money, commodity is time. We can always
Yes.
make more money, we can't always make more time.
Yeah.
So take care of yourself, vacations, time with family, time with the people that you love, experiences, all that type of stuff. And this is the same thing I teach to my team. It's like, I want you to take these vacations. I want you to do these things. When
Yeah.
is the next one? What date? Show me that it's booked. So it's like
I
all of
love
these
that.
things. Yeah, it's accountability, man, because people aren't going to do it. So it's
Yeah.
like, I know that if we all take care of ourselves, we can serve other people so much better. But we're so
Yeah.
focused on, once again, doing this one specific thing. Our battery's at 10%, and we're trying to give 100% to other people. It's just not possible. So,
Yeah.
biggest advice: take care of yourself. Time will always be the number one commodity. Don't forget to do things that you're going to be like that. You're going to be happy that you did 10 years down the road.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. And that's something I've said lots, and that's the shift I've noticed too, is again the time.
Yeah.
And again, to just add more color to the cup, I always say for people, well, what do you mean I do this and I do this, take care of myself, or oh, I have kids, I have all these other things, commitments, and I always say you're the most important person in your life.
Yeah.
Why? Because you live in your brain and your body every moment of every day.
Yeah.
Not your wife, not your kids, not your husband, not your family, not your job. You do. So fill that up first, make sure you're good. Because again, going back to that cup analogy, if my cup is here
Yeah.
and I'm trying to pour it out to my wife, my kids, and then by the time I'm pat and there's nothing left, or they all get a little bit.
Yeah.
But if my cup is full, super overflowing,
Yeah.
I can pour it out all day long and it's going to keep, and I keep filling up my cup. And it's like, man, it's just a smorgasbord of love and care and attention and time that I can give to people because I fill up my cup first.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the mask when you're in an airplane, you put your mask on first.
Yeah.
So when I'm able to do that, and for me to do that, it's making sure I exercise, making sure I meditate every day, making sure I learn something every day that I can use,
Yeah.
making sure I have just that downtime with my wife because I'm like, hey, let's go this direction. And
Yeah.
she's like, hey, she helps me to just be and not.
Yeah.
So recognizing that. And I absolutely love that you said that. So, yeah, and actually more important, last thing I want to touch on there is that you followed up with your employees to make sure they book that time.
Yeah.
That's not normal.
Yeah.
Most leaders, most bosses, whoever, it's they're taking time off. Oh, this sucks. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? And then
Yeah.
you end up feeling guilty. So I love that
Yeah.
you're doing that, and that's such a cool thing. And I will say this, I mean, I'm not there every day, but just from this conversation, I can tell you have a great team, and your team is very lucky to have you and blessed to have you. And we need more leaders like you. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
How can people find you if they want to reach out or just have questions?
Oh man, not big on so Instagram, whatever, I don't care. Reach out to me. So DLC Fitness 33. Any questions? Yeah, I'm open to anything. I love conversations. So.
Awesome, man. And thank you so much. You just like said, you're a light out there for leaders, and I'm super pumped for this one. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, man.
So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to do that. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. Please share, because that's what helps this podcast grow and be able to reach more people. And why wouldn't you want to share something like that with somebody if you really enjoyed it? If you haven't yet, I'd also encourage you to go to lifepurposely.ca. My wonderful wife, Emily, sends out weekly content to help you improve your life and to think differently and to make wonderful changes that can impact your life forever. So thank you again for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode.